Hi everyone, my name is Charlie Ryman. I'm the Director of Security Operations Recruitment here at Trident Search, and I thought we'd take some time today to discuss traditional routes into security operations and certain benefits that certain career paths can kind of bring to areas within security operations. It would be good to start with giving or highlighting a certain type of employers within security operations. There's quite a contrast. Typically, same with threat intelligence. It can be broken down into three different areas, being end users, consultancies, and vendors. Vendors, we're not really going to touch upon. You can be quite specialist within those, and you'll be helping them kind of work with their product and helping them push that out to market and dealing with some other clients within that function. You tend to be quite limited to experience with that product within that vendor, so it can be a little bit harder to kind of transfer out of that in due course. A lot of vendors will probably not like the sound of that. But then we've got end users and consultancy. So end users, you will be embedded internally within an organization, be it financial services or retail, and you will help kind of promote their internal security posture and monitor their internal environments. They can get quite a lot of exposure within those roles. And then we've got consultancies. Consultancies, you tend to go into another organization and advise them on best practices to follow, or it can be in line with MSSPs as well. So typically within an MSSP, you will be monitoring their clients' networks. They can be broken down into different stages. We can probably talk quite a lot about this one, but there's different levels. You can either be a security analyst where you'll be monitoring their environment and then let them know that they've got an issue. And it can vary in terms of what you can do with that. Some MSSPs, you can only raise that alert and send it over to the client. Some of them, you can actually do some initial triage. It depends on what agreement they've got with the client. And then you've also got instant response teams within MSSPs or consultancies, which they will deal with an escalated incident. So end users, MSSPs, consultancies, and vendors also. Moving on to traditional routes into any of those three, typically you can have someone who comes from the IT background. So be that service desk or infrastructure or network engineers or network security engineers. How would you kind of transfer into cybersecurity within those? We see this quite a lot. So it's great that you have that background. For example, a service desk, you understand how to work with tickets, how to escalate it, and the process behind it. And you have a bit of experience with dealing with customers per se. And that will really help you within a security analyst type role. So that is predominantly your role. You have a ticket. You need to analyze or see what that ticket is or what that alert is and be able to understand, okay, so what do we need to do now? And the infrastructure and network engineers, you have a really strong foundation skill which will help you, be that kind of working with firewalls. You'll be able to analyze traffic going through those, and that's really good transferable skills to kind of go into security. So the way you really want to kind of, if you're in that situation, whether you're a service desk or an engineer, you need to broaden your horizons, understand what is actually happening with the system, or the network. How can you make that secure? What products are out there that you can kind of use, and what kind of tools and certifications can you do, which will kind of take you away from that infrastructure or network or service desk background. And what you can do is you can work alongside your existing security teams if your company has them, to get that level of experience as well. So it's all about transferring that over. So that's typically the most common career path that we see people transfer into. Another area is one that I'm probably a little bit biased upon is the veterans or the service leavers, being ex-forces myself. So there's two different areas here. You've got people who have done security or perhaps in intelligence or something like that within the forces, who are interested in stepping into security, or you have people who don't really have the experience within the forces. So starting with the people that do, that's great, that's fantastic. What clients tend to look for now is when they kind of bring entry level or juniors into their role, and this is the same across all three different areas that we're going to discuss, it's about how do they reduce their risk. Cybersecurity is all about reducing your risk. And it can be risk bringing on someone who doesn't have any commercial experience or any security experience. So you need to kind of give that client or whatever job you're applying for that level of confidence that, one, you are either eager to learn or you are switched on enough and you've got that kind of analytical mindset that you are a safe bet to them. essentially. So how do you do that? You need to try and get that commercial experience. This is the ones that have that experience within security, be it with a apprenticeship or additional certifications, which the military will pay for. And we'll come on to a few other areas later. But it's more around how do you now transition yourself from speaking in military terms into putting that into a commercial environment. You need to understand there is still that hierarchy in place and things like that, but certain terminology that you've used in the forces, people won't understand. So just kind of bear that in mind. And if you don't have any experience within security, say, for example, you're coming from a logistics background or something like that within the forces, inevitably it will be harder, but there's a lot of companies now that are really looking for service personnel. So there's a lot of free material that you can use. Like, for example, Splunk kind of give you free foundation training materials. There's loads of stuff on LinkedIn that you can do as well. But it's all about immersing yourself as much as possible in that space, utilizing all of the free content that's available to you. And with the forces, I'm sure everyone's aware, you get certain training allocations and financial help in terms of kind of doing certifications that will help you. So my advice to service leavers is, before you enroll on a course, ask the market, ask the security market on LinkedIn, what is this course? Will this course help me? Because unfortunately, I have seen some course providers say, okay, well, you got this course, it will guarantee you a role in security, it will cost you this much amount of money. And really, it's not actually that beneficial. There's far much more effective stuff that you can do. So my advice to those service leavers, or anyone in fact, is to speak with the market. Find yourself, we'll come on to this again later, a mentor, and just run that by them first. Make an educated decision. Again, reduce the risk on your own part as well. So benefits of service leavers, there's just so many, probably too many to reel off. Again, that's probably me being biased, but people who leave the forces, they've been through a lot. They've worked in diverse environments. They can adapt quickly. So within security operations, if you've got alert, you've got something that's going on, you're responding to that, something else will happen. Again, you can stay focused. You don't get distracted. You don't get flustered. You can then step back and take a logical approach to kind of, and an educated approach on how to kind of deal with what's going on in the war room per se. And for those people that don't really know, the war room is kind of a closed off environment within a SOC. And that's where you're dealing with whatever threat is or incident that's happening right now, to keep it separate from the rest of the business, because obviously there's a lot of sensitive information in there. On top of that, dedication within the service leavers. Everyone's so dedicated and hardworking. So if a service leaver says to you, I will learn this, they will put their heart and soul into learning that. So, and they can quickly adapt. So that's some benefits from service leavers, and they've also got quite a lot of life experience as well, which will help them. And then I guess it brings us on to our final point of, how do you get into security if you don't have any experience whatsoever? If you've just kind of left school or left college, this is quite hard. I think there's a lot of competition out there. What an employer is going to look at is, one, the level of competition there, and two, what have you done to try and immerse yourself in this market? What's going to make you stand out? So that's knowing what particular area you want to get into, because sometimes we speak to people with no experience and they say, yeah, I'm not really too sure. I'd like to either go into pen testing or security operations or consulting. That's great. That's fine. It's great that you've got that interest, but you need to know what area you want to get into. There's no point going into an interview if you secure one saying, oh, well, for a security analyst in a few years' time, I want to be a pen tester. Although the red teaming element will help you as a security analyst, you're going to be up against people who are saying, right, okay, well, I really do like the blue team side of things, the operations, the analytics, and that's where I want to kind of see myself. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot somewhat. But the benefits of coming into that space with no experience, it's almost like a clean slate. And I think across cybersecurity on a whole, companies, MSSPs and consultancies, vendors, everyone needs a variety of skill set, a variety of personality types, because one person might be super analytical in one area and they might be able to identify certain trends, but someone else will be able to complement that, and they'll be able to think of things that someone else hasn't even thought of. So you can't have 5 of the same personality traits within security. You need a clash. You need people to be able to bounce ideas off of. So when you come in at that fresh slate, that fresh perspective, or depending on whatever career or stuff that you're coming from, I'd never kind of rule that out as an employer. So to kind of consolidate all of that in terms, even if you're coming from the service desk or the IT background, veterans, or you've got no experience at all, my advice would be understand what skills are required for whatever role you want to kind of go into. So what we see now is a lot of heads of security or companies, they're looking for people who can code or they've got experience with programming languages. So Python, for example, there's loads of stuff online that you can do to kind of teach yourself that. And the way that helps you now is all these next generation SOCs or these future SOCs, they want to automate things. They want to make things a lot easier. And if you have that ability to do that, and if you've taught yourself that, or you're teaching yourself that, that will really make you stand out from other security analysts that are even currently on the market, which don't have that ability. Also, cloud, there's lots of stuff happening with AWS and Azure. If you've got, there's loads of free content online for this. If you're teaching yourself that, as well as all the standard certifications, that's really going to put you in good stead. And again, there's loads of other free materials. So speak to your connections, your mentor, or even recruiters. They will point you in the right direction on how to stand out, how to beat that other competition. So that's where upskilling and skills kind of come in. They're my two kind of main things that I speak to analysts about right now. And also networking. I briefly touched on it then. You need to find yourself a mentor. Security now and security operations, everyone's happy to help people. If you show the right traits, everyone's super keen to help. People have set up like mentoring channels and everything to kind of help people get into security, because there is a skills gap. There is a shortfall of people. But like I said, there is a lot of competition. So you can't expect something for nothing. You've really got to kind of graft to beat that. But people are willing to help. And you can obviously use those mentors to find out, what's best for me? What career path is best for me? What skill sets do I need to learn? So definitely find yourself a mentor, go to all these groups that are on LinkedIn or other kind of underground groups and kind of get involved with those. When it comes to having a mentor, an additional benefit that you will get from them is if you've been working with them for a lengthy amount of time and you go into a job or you apply for a job, or this person, this head of security, this SOC manager or this CISO, they might be willing to give you a recommendation. And that will just give you that extra, it'll give you the upper hand, it'll give you that extra clout needed. Someone within the industry has kind of referred you to that role. So work closely with your mentor if you do decide to get one. Don't expect that, but if you do get that, that's just an additional bonus to have. Also, when you're applying for a job, there's certain things that you can do to help you out. So you don't just rely on click and send your CV. Chances are it might get lost in the pile. I mean, as I said, there's so much competition. You get 200-300 applicants. Someone might accidentally miss your CV. So what else you can do is you go into that company on LinkedIn or however you want to do it and find out who that hiring manager for that role is, who will be your boss. Try to connect with them, try to email them and say, hey, just a heads up, I've applied for your role. Here's my CV, really kind of interested. But do some research on the company and try and put that into that email or that message, because that, again, it's only going to increase your chances, if not for this role, potentially for future roles. So that's just something else to bear in mind. And then finally, there's lots of blogs, lots of newsletters and content that's being pushed out. So keep up to date with those. Be familiar with like all the channels that are putting content out. But more importantly, understand what is actually happening within security right now in the world, in the global context. So, for example, the SolarWinds breach. Find out or have an understanding what exactly happened there. So if you can go into an interview, like now we even have some security analysts who interview and they don't have an understanding of what's going on. Ultimately, they're not successful. So if you can go into an interview and say, yeah, this is what the landscape's looking like globally. These are the APT groups which are causing a lot of trouble around the world. And these are the basic facts around what's going on. That will really, really put you in good stead. It shows that you're keen. It shows that you're passionate. You don't need to have your own lab at home. You don't need to have built your own networks. Obviously, that helps. But you just need to reduce their risk, the client's risk of bringing you on board. And how do you do that? You upskill yourself and you give yourself as much knowledge as possible. But be it if you're a veteran service leaver coming from IT within itself, or if you have no experience at all, everyone's super open-minded about bringing you on board. But you have to kind of almost prove yourself and beat the competition. And if you can do that, then, it's going to be a long and successful career for yourself. So as always, if anyone's got any questions, just feel free to reach out to us here at Trident. We can also put you in touch with some other mentors or people who are willing to mentor. Yeah, and best of luck with your search.